Hi there, we're back after our cruise home safe and sound in Canada. And if you've been wondering if this is a time that you should cruise, if you've been hemming and hawing and thinking, should you cancel, should you go, I'm going to share with you some very real observations that we made based on our cruise that we just did, as well as some of the things that kind of surprised us and even some unexpected complications. Hi there, if you're new here, my name's Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, we just disembarked a couple of days ago from the Regal Princess. We did a really nice 8-day Caribbean cruise for New Year's, and I don't have to tell you that all hell broke loose at the end of 2021, and unfortunately, we're just not through it yet in 2022. So if you are wondering if you should go on your cruise, cancel your cruise, I definitely have some thoughts about it. I'm going to tell you, I guess we can talk about the risks and the rewards of cruising. And at the same time, I'm going to share with you if we regret it based on some of the things that we did experience on our cruise and what we plan to do for our next cruise that is booked. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you enjoy this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give the video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And of course, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's get started. Now, I should mention this is not going to be a full review of this cruise. That will be coming soon. But what I will be talking about is really some of the risks of cruising and traveling. Now, that is something that you have to weigh out, but I will let you know my thoughts on that, some of the protocols both on the cruise ship as well as in the ports, some that you may like, some of that you may not like, as well as, of course, the potential port closures, cancellations, things like that, as well as some things that did surprise us on this cruise. So firstly, let's talk about the risk of cruising right now and the risk of traveling. So to be honest, I do think compared to the video that I made about a month ago, that I did underestimate the risk of cruising and of traveling right now. And what I mean by that, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from traveling now, but I did take a lot of comfort in the fact that everybody is vaccinated on the cruise. I still do, that everybody is tested on the cruise. But I really do think that I didn't take into account the fact that people could test positive or could even be like contact traced based on people that were nearby them, and that could result in quarantine. And I do think that that risk is higher than it was even a month ago. And I say this based on a lot of messages that I did receive from people that were in that situation on cruise ships. So again, I don't say this to discourage anybody. I think if you know the risk, then that's something that you take for the idea of being able to travel. And I do think there are ways, obviously, that you can minimize that risk. I do think that when you do sit in the main dining room or in one of the restaurants is to sit on your own. Don't stay too close to people. And that is something that we definitely tried to do on our cruise. As well, spend a lot of time outdoors. And I do think a lot of people are doing that. I do think when we look at the amount of people that are testing positive, it is very, very minimal. But I think for many of us, the idea of being quarantined on a cruise ship just isn't the way we want to spend our holiday. And I think that that's just a reality to know about if you are cruising right now, that you really want to try to make sure that you are putting yourself in as little risk as possible on your cruise. Now, something else to note is that on our cruise, everybody was fully vaccinated, but as well, we found out that the crew, not only were they fully vaccinated, but the crew that we had spoken to, many of them said that they were actually boosted as well. So that was something that gave us some comfort as well, at least to know that the crew were mostly feeling pretty safe in this situation. We also saw that they were all wearing masks, but I believe that they were the N95 or the KN95 masks. So that also made us feel pretty good as well. They were wearing that inside the cruise ship, but outside the cruise ship as well. Now, as I mentioned, I do think that cruising is probably the safest way to travel right now, especially if you were comparing maybe a land vacation, going to a Caribbean island, maybe an all-inclusive resort. And it's not because I think that these islands are unsafe. I think they're doing really a very good job on the most part. But you are then subject not to the rules of the cruise line, not to the CDC rules, but you are then subject to really a foreign government. And from what I've seen, from what I've heard from people even that I know, is quarantine rules could be a much stricter, much longer, and you can kind of be stuck there rather than heading closer to home, which I think I would prefer now on a cruise ship. Now, please note this is just my opinion, and if you've had a different experience, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so moving on to the protocols, some of our observations and some of what surprised us, how safe we felt on the cruise, and if we would cruise again under these circumstances. So first of all, in terms of the protocols, this was a cruise where everybody needed to wear a mask everywhere on the cruise ship when they were inside. And on the most part, we found that people really did follow these protocols. So that was something good. That was something that did make us feel good. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, the crew was always wearing, I believe it was like a KN95 mask or an N95 mask, but they were always wearing this, and that definitely did give us some comfort. Now, I have to say, I wondered what this would be like, but it really didn't bother us. We spent a lot of time outdoors, and of course we didn't need to wear our masks when we were outdoors, and I think people just got used to it. We just had our mask with us and we put it on if we were going inside or if we were going into the buffet, and really considering that we were able to sit down and to still eat our dinner, it was definitely a little bit of a quieter vibe than we usually would have maybe on a New Year's cruise. But given the circumstances, we were still really happy to be able to cruise and feel relatively safe. Now, something that did surprise us, and being completely honest, I'm not sure how much I like this, although I can understand it, but it is in the cruise ports, we were required to wear masks. And this meant that from the moment that we walked off the cruise ship and we were walking along the dock, we had to wear our mask, and it was really, really hot. When we were in line waiting for our transportation for our shore excursion, everybody had to wear masks. In a lot of the streets, like near the cruise port, if we were walking from store to store, even outside of the shops, you had to wear a mask. And of course, I can completely understand it because, of course, the people in the islands want to protect themselves. Cruise passengers want to be protected. Tourism, there's a lot of reasons why they want to make sure that they don't have this kind of spread. So I completely understand it, but it did surprise me. I knew that we would have to wear masks when we were in the cruise ports. I thought probably like as we went into the stores, but I didn't expect it when we were actually outside in the hot sun. Now, we didn't have to wear them if we were on a beach. So that's something to note. Maybe book a shore excursion where you're outside and you're at a beach, because that's where you didn't have to wear it. But when we were in, for instance, like a Jeep safari bus kind of transportation, even on a tour, we did have to wear the mask when we were sitting side by side and we were wearing masks. And even in some cases, we were on a boat. We had gone over to Virgin Gorda when we were in Tortola. It was a really nice excursion, but we had to take a boat over, and it was probably about a 25-minute ride. And we did all still have to wear our masks when we were in the boat. And you know, depending on how you feel about masks, I would not say it's the most comfortable. Maybe it's just what we have to go through to be able to travel now, but it is just something to be aware of. Now, something else that surprised us a little bit was in terms of the experience on the cruise ship. Now, first, I have to say, the service was so good. The food was also, even though I'm going to do a review another time, the food was really good on this cruise. We had a really good time, but just like on land, things are a little bit different. Things are a little bit different on the cruise ship as well. So this meant that there were some crew that were sometimes sick, and because they were sick, well, some of the activities that would normally happen on board, well, they didn't necessarily happen. So one of those things was there was a DJ in the club. My son, who had gone there, had said the DJ apparently was ill, so they didn't have a DJ, and instead, so you had a bit of a playlist for the music. We had heard also there was a band on board, and somebody in the band was ill, and of course, so they had to quarantine, and so that meant maybe that they had to make some changes. And again, I think these are things that happen right now on land. When we did go on land to a restaurant, we found out that restaurants were short-staffed due to the quarantining rules and things like that. So this is going to happen on the cruise ship as well, and it just seems to be a reality. We still had a really good cruise, but I guess we just had never experienced this on a cruise. And, you know, I think it's just a reality of traveling right now. So given all of that said, do I regret going on my cruise, and would I do it again? So no, I do not regret going on my cruise or my trip to Florida that we did before the cruise as well. We had a really nice time. And as a Canadian that is living through the winter right now and doesn't like it very much, I was really happy to see the sea, to see color again. The flowers, the green palm trees, I absolutely love that. And I love the energy that comes from people traveling and living life. So I definitely don't regret getting a boost of that energy. I think it's really important in life to have that. That being said, I have a cruise booked in March, and I am maybe going to hold off on that cruise. Now, in that case, that cruise is booked with Royal Caribbean. They do have a policy for that date still that I can actually make my final payment up until 30 days before the cruise. And that cruise, what I did is I did book it under a refundable fare rather than a non-refundable fare. So if I do end up canceling that cruise, I'll be able to get a full refund. So I am going to hold off on my judgment for that cruise, and I probably will wait until this surge passes. I really am crossing my fingers that this will be soon, because I just think that there are better times to cruise. If I was living in the United States, perhaps I would feel differently about it because I would be coming straight home. But there is honestly the concern about traveling internationally, and I think that that is a real concern. So if you are traveling internationally, it is something to think about. Please let me know your own thoughts. Like, what would you do if you were me, or if you are traveling internationally? If you are thinking of holding off your cruises, or if you're saying, you know what, we've got to live, because I do feel that way a little bit too. But in any case, I am going to reserve judgment till about 30 days before my cruise. I'm going to watch the next month and see what happens. Now, I hope that this video was helpful to at least give you a realistic look of what cruising is like right now. No fluff. Please let me know what you think. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And of course, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.